Today we will cover 5 real stories of tragedy in the beautiful but deadly Switzerland Alps. Each story is different, but they all share the same haunting end. From avalanches to mysterious disappearances, these tales will show you the dark side of the Swiss Alps. Stay tuned as we explore the chilling details of each case. In March 2024, a family of 6 skiers set out on the haute route from Zermatt to Arolla in the Swiss Alps. The day started with clear skies and relatively mild weather for the season, perfect for the first leg of their ambitious journey. This group was well acquainted with the mountains. The Moyes family members were experienced skiers who loved the thrill of the alpine wilderness. The family included 3 brothers, Jean-Vincent Moy, 30, David Moy, 27, and Laurent Moy, 21. Their cousin Marc Moy, 44, and their uncle Joel Moy, 58, accompanied them. David's girlfriend Émilie Deschenaux, 28, completed the group. They had prepared for this trip for months, gathering the necessary gear and training for the challenging terrain. Their route, the haute route, is famous for its breathtaking views, but also notorious for its demanding conditions. The trip from Zermatt to Arolla requires crossing several high-altitude passes, and it's only recommended for experienced skiers. Despite their expertise, the family was well aware of the risks involved. By mid-afternoon, the weather began to change as they approached the Tête Blanche mountain, which rises to about 12,000 feet. The clear skies gave way to ominous clouds, and the temperature dropped rapidly. The wind picked up and snow fell heavily, reducing visibility to almost zero. The group pressed on, hoping to reach a safer location before the weather worsened. By late afternoon, the situation had become critical. The storm had intensified, and the family realized they were in serious trouble. They decided to stop and try to build a snow cave for shelter. With only small shovels and limited knowledge of snow cave construction, they struggled against the harsh conditions. The wind howled, and the temperature plummeted even further. As night fell, the storm showed no signs of letting up. The group huddled inside the partially built snow cave, trying to stay warm and protect themselves from the brutal elements. Around 9:20 p.m., one of them managed to make a distress call. The call was brief and the signal weak, but it was enough to alert the authorities. Rescue teams were immediately mobilized. However, the weather conditions made it impossible for helicopters to fly. On the ground, rescuers faced extreme cold, high winds, heavy snowfall, and a significant risk of avalanches. The initial search efforts had to be called off due to these dangers, and the rescuers were forced to retreat. The following morning, the weather showed no improvement. The rescue teams, desperate to reach the stranded skiers, used mobile phone networks to triangulate their location. Late in the afternoon, a brief window of slightly improved weather allowed a helicopter to drop off a team of rescuers near the Tête Blanche area. What they found was a scene of tragedy. 5 bodies were discovered near the remains of a makeshift snow cave. Hypothermia had claimed their lives. The deceased were identified as Jean-Vincent, David, Laurent, Marc, and Joel Moy. Émilie Deschenaux was not found with the group. Her backpack and skis were discovered nearby, suggesting she might have wandered from the cave disoriented. Jean Truffer, head of Zermatt's air rescue service, described the scene as devastating. The rescuers found that the ski tourers had attempted to build a cave and protect themselves from the wind, but they froze to death at altitude, disoriented. Christian Veron, commander of the Valais Cantonal Police, echoed this sentiment. He acknowledged the extreme efforts made by the rescue teams under life-threatening conditions, noting that they were attempting the impossible. The news of the tragedy spread quickly, bringing shock and grief to their community. Jean-Vincent, recently elected as a councillor of Vex, was particularly mourned by his colleagues and constituents. Mayor Sébastien Menoud described it as a huge tragedy and expressed his deepest condolences to the family. The Moy family was well known and respected in their hometown. In an obituary, Jean-Vincent, David, and Laurent's parents expressed their heartache, saying their beloved sons fell asleep together while doing something they loved. They also mentioned Émilie, David's girlfriend, who was still missing, and asked for prayers for her safety. As the days passed, the search for Émilie continued. Rescuers remained hopeful, driven by past experiences where missing persons had been found alive after several days. Truffer noted that they had previously found missing people several days later, and that miracles always happened, though he acknowledged that the chances were slim. The Moix family and the local community held on to hope, even as they faced the harsh reality of the situation. Vigils were held, and prayers were said for Emily's safe return. It was around 9:25 a.m. on April 2, 2024, when James Jimmy Davis Goff and other adventurers were transported to the summit of Petit Combin in the Swiss Alps. The helicopter, a B-3 type, was on a heli-skiing drop-off mission. Jimmy, a 34-year-old with an impressive background in humanitarian work, had always sought adventure. On that day, the clear skies hid the danger that lay ahead. Jimmy was part of a group of 5, including the pilot, Jerome Lovey, and a mountain guide, Adam George. The plan was to drop off the skiers at the peak, where they would begin their thrilling descent down the snow-covered slopes. As the helicopter approached the summit, it seemed like another routine trip, but what happened next turned an exhilarating adventure into a nightmare. As the helicopter reached the landing site, it was suddenly caught in an avalanche. The powerful snowslide engulfed the aircraft, causing it to lose balance and slide down the northern slope. Panic and chaos ensued as the helicopter tumbled, crashing and buried in the snow. The violent impact claimed the lives of Jimmy, Jerome Lovey, and Adam George. Among the survivors were 3 passengers who sustained injuries, but were rescued by a swift and large-scale emergency response involving 7 helicopters. Jimmy's death was a devastating blow to his family and friends. He was the youngest of 4 children born to Sir Robert and Lady Sheila Davis Goff, who owned the Ballinacor estate in Rathdrum Co Wicklow. Jimmy's sister Sarah co-founded the publishing company Tramp Press, while his maternal ancestors founded Chadwick's, the builder's providers. His early years were spent at Seafield House in Donabate and Lisson Hall, before the family moved to the Isle of Man when he was 8. Jimmy was known for his adventurous spirit even as a child. He spent endless hours outdoors swimming, biking, and running around with his older siblings. His nickname Duck came from his love for swimming. Following family tradition, he attended Headfort School in Kells, Comeath, and later Gordonstown in Scotland, a school famous for emphasizing outdoor activities. Despite struggling with a stammer and dyslexia, he excelled in public speaking and academics, earning numerous qualifications. After completing a business course at Edinburgh College, Jimmy worked as a ski instructor in Switzerland and with a safari camp in South Africa. His passion for international relations was sparked during an Erasmus semester in Groningen, Netherlands, which led him to the University of San Francisco. There, he earned a master's degree in international relations and interned with the Irish Department of Foreign Affairs. His career took him to the United Nations, where he worked in Geneva, Zimbabwe, and Lebanon, making significant contributions to humanitarian efforts. Former colleagues remembered Jimmy for his infectious energy and dedication. A friend and former colleague, Rana Dash, recalled how he volunteered to be a mock kidnapping victim during a security training exercise, showcasing his selflessness and courage. He completed bomb disposal and landmine clearance courses in Kosovo and built a community kitchen in Lebanon. In 2022, he climbed the Matterhorn to raise funds for the Lebanese Red Cross, despite his fear of heights and lack of mountaineering experience. Jimmy's commitment to charity work was evident from his school days. He ran the London Marathon to support the Outward Bound Trust and volunteered with San Francisco City Impact during his student years. His academic journey continued at Columbia University, where he pursued a master's in public administration. Professor Michael Nutter, a former mayor of Philadelphia, remembered him as a lively and engaging student. Just days before his death, Jimmy had interviewed for a job at the British Red Cross to be closer to his partner, Joyce Raboka, a Paris-based lawyer. The couple had met in New York while attending university. A shared passion marked their relationship for helping others and a deep connection. The tragedy in the Alps profoundly impacted those who knew Jimmy. His memorial page, managed by Joyce, highlighted his dedication to helping others, whether he knew them or not. The crash, which killed 3 and injured the survivors, was a harsh reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the inherent risks of adventurous pursuits. The Swiss Transportation Safety Investigation Board, in collaboration with the Valais Police Force, is investigating the cause of the accident. Eyewitnesses reported that the helicopter was swept up in a volatile avalanche, which led to its fatal descent. The ideal weather conditions at the time of the crash added to the mystery, leaving investigators puzzled. Among the survivors, Edward Courage, a 68-year-old from the Courage Brewery family, showed remarkable bravery. He pushed brothers Guy and Teddy Hutchings out of the helicopter before jumping. Though he couldn't save Jimmy, his quick thinking helped save lives. Edward later described Jimmy as a lovely boy, emphasizing the tragedy of losing someone so young and full of promise. The Valais Cantonal Police reported that the helicopter crashed at the summit and slid down the slope. Rescue efforts were immediate, but the avalanche made it challenging to reach the site. 7 rescue helicopters were deployed, and the 3 injured passengers were treated at the scene before being airlifted to hospitals. Francois Michel, who was scheduled to take the next helicopter with his family, counted himself lucky for narrowly avoiding the disaster. In the aftermath, the Air Glaciers Company, which owned the helicopter, expressed deep shock and extended its condolences to the victims' families. The crash left a void in Jimmy's family and friends' hearts, and the local community in Wicklow mourned the loss of a young man who had dedicated his life to making a difference. On April 29, 2011, renowned Swiss mountaineer Erhard Lauretin went on a climb in the Bernese Alps. The day was significant not just because of the climb, but also because it was Lauretin's 52nd birthday. Lauretin was guiding a client up the summit ridge of the Grünhorn, a challenging peak standing at 4,043 meters. Lauretin was an icon in the climbing world. He was one of only 3 climbers to have scaled all 14 of the world's peaks over 8,000 meters, achieving this incredible feat at 36. His most famous climb was a nighttime ascent of Mount Everest without bottled oxygen, completed in just 40 hours in 1986. Born in the canton of Fribourg, Lauretin began climbing at 11 and quickly became a legend in the mountaineering community. On that day, Lauretin and his 38-year-old Swiss client began their ascent. They had skied part of the way up the peak before roping up for the final climb. When tragedy struck, they were at a height of 3,800 meters, just 243 meters below the summit. For unknown reasons, both men fell approximately 200 meters down the slope. Lauretin died at the scene while his client was seriously injured and was flown to a hospital. The news of Lauretin's demise shocked the climbing world. He was not just any climber. He was a man who had accomplished feats many only dream of. His client survived but was left in critical condition, adding to the tragedy of the day. Both triumph and tragedy marked Lauretin's career. In 1995, he told L'Objectif magazine that he had an extreme fear of death, which he believed kept him alert during climbs. Despite this fear, his career nearly ended in 2003 due to a personal tragedy. He was convicted of manslaughter for the shaking death of his 7-month-old son. Lauretin briefly shook the baby to stop him from crying and then put him to bed. When the crying stopped, he thought the baby was asleep. Tragically, the baby had suffered fatal injuries. Lauretin was given a 4-month suspended sentence. Despite this dark chapter, Lauretin continued to share his passion for climbing with others. He often spoke about his joy in helping others achieve their dreams of climbing mountains. In an interview at the Trento Film Festival, he expressed his love for guiding and the fulfillment it brought him. The circumstances of the fall on Grünhorn are still unclear. The pair had been roped together, which is a standard safety practice. However, something went wrong. The weather conditions, their positioning, and even their physical conditions could have played a role, but the exact cause remains a mystery without more information. It was about 10 a.m. on May 17, 2023, when Kakper Tekieli began his descent from the 4,158-meter peak of Jungfrau in the Swiss Alps. Kakper, a 38-year-old renowned Polish climber, had just achieved another milestone in his ambitious project to climb all 82 alpine 4,000ers in the shortest time possible. Kakper was no stranger to danger. Born in Gdansk, he had spent years mastering the art of climbing, scaling peaks from the Tatra Mountains to the Alps and even the Himalayas. His achievements were many: a double traverse of the Matterhorn, a solo climb of the northeast face of the Eiger via the Lauper route, and participation in Polish expeditions to summit the 8,481-meter Makalu and the 8,011-meter Broad Peak Middle. He was also a climbing instructor recognized by the Polish Mountaineering Association and had earned Piolet d'Or nominations for his exceptional feats in mountaineering. But on this particular day, the climb was different. Kakper was alone, descending Jungfrau on a snowboard. The WSL Institute for Snow and Avalanche Research, SLF, had issued a considerable avalanche risk warning. High winds had created unstable snowdrifts, making the steep terrain extremely dangerous. Despite these warnings, Kakper pressed on. This was his way, taking calculated risks, pushing boundaries, and often climbing solo. As he descended, an avalanche swept him off the mountain. It was a sudden and catastrophic event. A wall of snow cascading down the slope, carrying Kakper with it. Swiss rescue services were alerted, but poor weather conditions prevented immediate action. The search had to wait. The following day, May 18th, a helicopter was finally able to access the area. At around 7 a.m., rescuers located Kakper's body below the Roddel Couloir. He had perished in the avalanche, another victim of the mountain's unforgiving nature. Kakper's death was a significant loss to the climbing community. The Jerzy Kukuczka Foundation for Polish Alpinism expressed their sorrow on Instagram, calling it an unimaginable loss and extending their sympathies to his loved ones. Kakper's wife, Justyna Kowalczyk-Tekieli, a two-time Olympic and world cross-country skiing champion, was devastated. The couple married in Gdansk on September 24, 2020, and had a son, Hugo, born on September 2, 2021. Justyna paid tribute to her husband on Instagram, sharing a photo of Kakper from the summit of the Jungfrau and writing, "He was my everything." Extraordinary achievements and a relentless pursuit of excellence had marked Kakper's journey. His most notable accomplishment was the double traverse of the Matterhorn in a single push, climbing and descending all four of the mountain's significant ridges. In 2019, he free-soloed the Lauper route on the Eiger in record time, further cementing his reputation as a powerful climber. Yet his ongoing project to climb all 82 Alpine 4000ers truly showcased his ambition. This project was inspired by Ueli Steck, another legendary mountaineer who had completed the same challenge in 62 days in 2015. Kakper aimed to match or even surpass this feat. By his death, starting on May 6, 2023, he had already summited 8 of these peaks. Kakper's final climb began the day before the accident. He had shared data on Strava, placing him at the Concordia Hut, 2,850 meters up the mountain. The following day, he tagged the peak at 10:12 a.m., indicating his successful summit of the Jungfrau. However, the descent proved fatal. The Polish climbing community mourned the loss of one of their brightest stars. Tributes poured in from fellow climbers, friends, and fans. The Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki expressed his condolences on Twitter, acknowledging the profound impact of Kakper's death. Radoslaw Pisiewicz, president of the Polish Olympic Committee, also sympathized with Kakper's family. Kakper's life exemplified his passion for climbing and his willingness to embrace risks. He was described as smiling, attentive, and emanating peace and positive energy. His dedication to training was unmatched, and he was fascinated by the significant figures of mountaineering. On June 22, 2023, Aidan Roche, a 29-year-old British hiker, made his last contact with his family. Aidan, an offshore chemical engineer from Middlesbrough, was in the Grindelwald area of the Swiss Alps, approximately 50 miles from Bern. The weather was clear and the views were breathtaking as Aidan trekked along the Eiger Trail, a popular hiking route renowned for its stunning scenery and challenging paths. Aidan had been on a 2-week solo camping trip, a journey he had been looking forward to for months. He loved the outdoors and had a deep passion for hiking. This trip was meant to be an adventure, a break from his demanding job, and a chance to immerse himself in nature. He was experienced and well prepared, or so it seemed. On that day, Aidan was considered returning to his camper van after visiting a glacier. His last known location was halfway down the Eiger Trail. He sent a picture to his family showcasing the majestic landscape. It was the last anyone would hear from him. His family grew concerned when Aidan failed to contact him over the next few days. By June 24th, he was due to return to the UK, but there was no sign of him. His camper van was found parked at a campsite, untouched since June 30th. This was unusual for Aidan, who was known to keep in regular touch with his friends and family, sharing updates, pictures, and videos from his travels. Alarmed, Aidan's family reported him missing. Swiss authorities launched an extensive search in the Grindelwald area, deploying helicopters, drones, and rescue dogs to scour the treacherous terrain. Despite their best efforts, they found no trace of Aidan. After exhausting all available resources, the official search was called off. Desperate for answers, Aidan's family and friends refused to give up. They launched a GoFundMe campaign, raising nearly £32,000 to fund a private search operation. His older brothers, Connor and Niall, fled to Switzerland to retrace Aidan's steps. They spent days navigating the rugged trails, putting up missing person posters in local petrol stations, supermarkets, and shopping centers, hoping someone might have seen him. The family's efforts drew widespread support. Messages of hope and condolences flooded social media. One of Aidan's friends, Beth Taylor, described him as one of the most amazing people she had ever met, highlighting his kind heart and adventurous spirit. The campaign garnered international attention, but despite the relentless efforts, Aidan remained missing. Then, on September 12th, nearly 3 months after his disappearance, the tragic news came. Swiss police found Aidan's body near the Eiger Trail. His brother Connor broke the heartbreaking news on social media, thanking everyone who had supported their search. The family was devastated but somewhat relieved to have closure. The discovery of Aidan's body led to an inquest in Middlesbrough on January 25th. The coroner, Karen Welsh, revealed that Aidan had died from head and chest injuries consistent with a fall. His smartwatch had stopped signaling on June 22nd, suggesting he fell the same day he was last heard from. The exact circumstances of his fall remain a mystery, and given the time that had passed, the reason for the fall could not be determined. The coroner concluded that Aidan's death was an accident. The news hit Aidan's family and friends hard. They had held on to hope for months, and now they had to face the harsh reality.